we know that employee engagement is not one of, but the main ingredient for unlocking the potential within your business to achieve anything else that you want to achieve.
Hi, it's John Bernatovich, your host of the HR Like a Boss podcast. Welcome to Season 3. I've embarked on a journey to get to know amazingly awesome HR and business professionals with the hope of finding what it takes to do HR like a boss. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. On today's show, I am joined by Deb Calvert. Super excited to have Deb on the show. She's got a lot of followers on LinkedIn and has some really unique perspective on all things HR. So, Deb, welcome to the HR Like a Boss podcast.
Thank you, John. I am honored to be here. I think you're doing a fantastic service for the HR community here.
How would you describe the purpose of human resources?
I think it's all about the people, and that gets lost so much in the compliance side of the business. But the motto of my company is putting people first. And I see really that is the purpose of HR, to have the right people practices, to have the systems and the training in place for others so that you're successful as a business because you put people first.
Tell me what you think about employee engagement and how organizations can improve it.
Well, from an HR perspective, I think it starts with telling the story about why employee engagement matters so much, because we know that employee engagement is not one of, but the main ingredient for unlocking the potential within your business to achieve anything else that you want to achieve. So I like people to think about employee engagement as a domino effect. Employee engagement meaning emotional connection people have to their work so that they apply additional discretionary effort. When they have that emotional connection, the first domino is, well, the good people you want to have stick around, they stick around. Your retention improves. And that emotional connection is what drives the discretionary effort. So second domino would be productivity. And research by every measure proves this out. It's higher quality, higher quantity, less absenteeism, you name it, less overtime, right? Productivity measures all are directly tied to employee engagement. Common sense, you have those first two dominoes, employees who stick around, higher productivity, voila, you have improved customer satisfaction. And as a result of that, you have higher revenue, you have improved profit. So employee engagement, that entire beautiful domino effect all comes from having employees who are engaged. And that's the story. I think sometimes in HR, we know it so well that we forget to tell it to other people who think it's just some business buzzword or some nice little luxury that would be nice to have.
Why do you think like now more than ever, this idea of leadership at every level matters so much more? Like why is that such a critical point of emphasis for you in your business and one of the topics you wanted to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so many answers to this. Let's see. Let me start with, there's an interesting bit of research, a survey of CEOs that goes out and asks them, when do you believe people should receive some sort of leadership development? And the average age that CEOs give to that question is age 19. But the truth is, the average age when people receive any sort of formal leadership development, if they ever do, the average age is 44. That's decades of missed opportunity. How sad. And now we've got companies that are all floundering and competing with each other to try to source leadership talent to bring into their company when they have open positions, because you didn't bring it up from inside. But see, if every company has the same problem, it's becoming more and more difficult to bring in leaders because they weren't developed somewhere else either. So leadership at every level, I'm not talking about just preparing people for the executive ranks, but leadership at every level, well, that does give you bench strength. But on top of that, it engages employees because it's emotionally invigorating to know that a company believes in you and is going to invest in you and help you to grow in your own right as a leader. And if you have leadership at every level, you unlock that cascade because, by the way, that domino effect, the number one thing that creates employee engagement is certain behaviors of leaders. So if you know what those behaviors are and you allow those behaviors, encourage them at every level, you've got a magical culture that really does keep people around.
You mentioned in our preparation for today's show that the 9-box model theory for talent review is a point of passion for you. And I'm wondering how at times using that tool or others, HR is inadvertently impairing employee engagement levels.
Yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine, and I've been thinking about it for a long time, since way back when I was at that Fortune 500, and I was part of the group that did what they called the rankings of the VPs across 31 markets. And I was stunned to see how subjective that process really was. And of course, my initial thought was, oh, that must just be here. But now in these 17 plus years of being in business for myself, I've seen it over and over again. And there's a lack of awareness when it becomes subjective. It's really a lot about halos and horns. What box was somebody in last year? Well, that's largely where they're going to end up in the future because of how we viewed them. But here's my real pet peeve, right? So the process, I think, first of all, it's antiquated, been around since 1970, and we can do better. But I think the biggest problem and what drives that subjectivity, what allows for unconscious bias to creep in, is the dimension of potential. I mean, if you really think about this, John, how on earth can any individual truly know the potential of anyone else? We barely know our own potential. And so then we put people in these boxes and we either label them, and it's oftentimes a little debilitating to their morale, or we don't let them know what it was. And now the lack of transparency, that mystery, causes people to feel a little suspicious and disengaged. So I recommend, if you're looking at how to determine who you're going to invest in for development, or if you're looking for some sort of mechanism to really evaluate people in your talent review process, how can you strip out the subjectivity? How can you take out potential? And I've devised and now beta tested with a few clients an alternative for that, which seems to be working pretty well. Short version is keep looking at performance, but do it with objective, true metrics. And then instead of potential, look at how they do the work. Create some real, true behavioral examples of, for example, your values. What do they look like in action? And now you're looking at what people do, and you're looking at how they do the work, crystal clear, transparent, and make sure that people understand there's room to move between those boxes because they're getting good coaching and support.
All right. The book is HR Like a Boss. The podcast is same name, HR Like a Boss. So Deb, I get all of my guests out of the show with one final question. How would you describe someone that does HR Like a Boss?
I think that they are passionate about people. That doesn't mean you have to yourself be an extrovert with tons of empathy who's just going to be the shoulder people can lean on and cry on. It means that you have a balance with understanding the compliance nature of the business or the legal aspect of the business. You're protecting your company. And instead of being this open door that just listens to problems and overly empathizes with folks, you are empowering them to take control of their own situations, to be leaders in their own right. And you're educating managers to minimize those sorts of concerns that are out there. And you're never taking sides, right? The HR Like a Boss, to me, finds the creative solutions that help people understand things differently and come back together.
Deb, you were an awesome guest. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, John. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the HR Like a Boss podcast. If it resonates with you, please leave a rating or review, or better yet, subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, let's continue to aspire to do amazingly awesome HR.